Dr. Radmanthes. Hi, Sam. What I'm getting at from your guest is basically that university colleges just reflect the contemporary culture, politics, and economics of their society. This is definitely a dog bites man kind of story. I'm not sure why this scholar's research seems to be greeted with surprise in the media. Maybe because some kind of fantasy, the ivory tower still being separate from the rest of society, will still exist. I think Wilder's research shows us that this fantasy was even less true in the past, when universities probably had more central political role in society than today. I mean, I think there is some. I think some of what you're saying is true, frankly, but I do think the notion of how the role that these universities play, they don't just reflect it. They play an integral part in forming it. I mean, obviously, the economics of the time dictated that they would reflect these things. And I think the fact that they did so in such a stark way, and I think there are a lot of people who do have assumptions, and that was why I started the interview with that question about what his assumption was that the role that universities played. And I think the idea that when you talk about being a reflection, that is a passive relationship to society. You can find things that are passive reflections all the time of society, but they also then, because of the nature of universities, have a more important impact than, say, an ice cream parlor that won't serve African Americans as being a reflection of society. They perpetuate the system, and I think in some ways not just perpetuated but enhanced the system. And I think also their use as colonization tools is really important when you think about what, let's say, the Gates Foundation is doing, where with the money driving. Education has a very distinct relationship to society. It is both reflective and also changes society. And so I think there's some very important nuance in there. I will say that, some of the interviews I watched and read prior to, as part of my research for this interview, I think spent too much time on, like, the president of Princeton had this many slaves, and I didn't find terribly surprising, and I think that is more of a reflection.
I think the success rate was pretty astonishing too. Like how big of a difference it made. Not surprising that there would be money from these sources flowing in, but he talked about the failure rate of universities that were founded.
Yeah,
that actually did surprise me.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of this too is just stuff that you don't think about. And I mean, if you really think about it and you contemplate, okay, the slavery trade was basically what trade was. I mean, on some level or another, there was some type of multiplier effect. I mean, it just had. It resonated throughout our economy in such a way that it was bound. Where else are people going to get money at that time to build these type of institutions? I found it particularly interesting in terms of the way that it was used consciously or unconsciously as a weapon in colonizing this country. Because in what we didn't get into, my mistake, was what the implications of proselytizing, Christianizing one generation of Native Americans did to the Native American culture, and how that sort of degraded their culture and then their society.